Well, I got my Genset in today. Um, for being a train man, an Atlas train man, it looks really good. Um, I think the only thing they probably could improve on, and that's pretty much all manufacturers, is the lights. The ditch lights and the headlight and the rear lights, they're just not bright. So I'm already planning on swapping them out. Um, the rear fan is probably that looks pretty bad to me. Um, if it'd been a silver or gold, it'd probably have, a real type of fan on it with a grate and these three grates on top. They would probably be etched or something. But other than that, that's being pretty picky considering what it is. It came with the 21 pin board in it. I'm gonna pop the shell off and show that. It advertises that it comes with an 8 pin, and it doesn't really matter either way because I plan on tearing all that out and putting in a Tsunami 2, a PNP 8. So here it is with the shell off. It has a little board in the front that has LEDs on it. It is set up with, there's 3 wires coming off it, so it is set up to flash if you want it to. And I probably could get away with going ahead and getting Soundtraxx their 21 pin decoder, but I really don't like how much space, all the connectors and all this, you got 2 boards on top of each other. There's a little bit of room between the board and the motor. I'm thinking if I want the PNP8 decoder in here, all this has got to go and it's got to be redone. I really don't want to go with the 21 pin. Like I said, it just seems to, that board to me right here is pretty much useless. It's taking up room. Like I said, with all these plugs and stuff, they're going to be in the way. And this board mounts down onto this metal, and I'm probably going to mill some off here just so when the new one comes in I can put something across there like electrical tape for an insulator, and I'll gain a little bit of room. This is going to be one of those models that are going to require a bit of patience, because not only am I going to install that decoder, there's going to be 3 cube speakers up under here, and also I'm not 100% sure yet where I want to put it, but I want to put a current keeper on this as well. So my first step is probably going to be just unplug all this. I'm not sure which end I had out. These just, it must have been the back. They just slide out, and what I'm going to do is probably replace that little board with a strip of styrene about the same thickness, and then I'll take the LEDs that I'm used to using, because they make a world of difference. It's much brighter, and I'll start with that. But probably the very first thing I'll do is I'll have to carefully take away the top part of the cab. It only has 1 headlight in the front. It's got 2 in the back. I don't know. I'm not sure why they did that, but that's going to be the first thing I want to tackle, because it's going to be the hardest. I have to carefully snap the cab off and replace that LED. They are all LEDs though, which is good. And I'm pretty sure the number boards don't light up, which kind of surprised me for an Atlas. But again, it's an Atlas trainman, so overall it's fairly straightforward. It's just I'm not quite sure where I'm going to put the current keeper yet. but I will find a way. So I removed the board, get that out of the way, and then taking the cab off wasn't very hard. It wasn't even glued. There's these tiny little nubs in each of the corners, and really all you got to do is gently push to the side. First of all, you want to make sure that all your handrails are pulled out of the holes in the cab. You don't want to go ripping those off. So yeah, gently push to one side, you get a little bit of a gap, and then I used a pretty fine screwdriver, went under there and just gently wiggled my way in without leaving any marks in the plastic. And then just went to the other side and did the same thing. There is, and I'm not sure, if you go from the inside, those little nubs end up right there and right there. So you can see from the inside, if I hold it up to the light, yeah, the light that's just really bright through there on both sides. If you use a screwdriver, or I would recommend something that has more of a flat tip on it, that way you don't dig into the plastic and have it maybe spread on you, which would make it harder to get out. Something with kind of a flat tip, and press on that may help as well, and you just wiggle it right out. And again, be sure you have these disconnected, and I'm repeating it because I had them off, and then when I had the cab about halfway off, I noticed one of those suckers somehow found its way back into the hole. So you want to do that. The other thing I wanted to do that I didn't mention is, like on my other locos, step lights. That's one of the reasons I got the 8-function decoder, because I'm going to have flashing ditch lights front and rear is basically what CSX would have on one of their locos. So I want to do that, and with that in the front and the rear headlight, that's going to eat up 6 functions just like that. So I wouldn't be able to add those without them being on and off all the time with, you know, another function like the headlights. I don't want that. So I know I'm going to do step lights because I've seen some of these have them. And then I'm not real sure about the truck lights. I don't know if I've ever seen truck lights on Genset, but I do know there's a step light like just inside here, and I'm thinking maybe the other side. But anyway, I wanted those 2 extra functions. That's why I want to go with their newer PNP 8 that came out just within the last couple months here. And again, I think it's going to be slimmer. Well, it may be about the same height. You're probably thinking, yeah, why not just get the 8-function 21-pin board? And I have to keep it as slim as possible height-wise, because with the resistors and other things, and not knowing how I'm going to situate the current keeper in there, I need all the room I can get on this, and it's just going to be kind of as I go. So I'll wait until the decoder comes in, because I just about guarantee there's going to be components on the bottom side of that, and I want to know if or how much I need to mill off of here, because I want it to sit as low as possible. And it's not going to have, well, it's going to have at least one plug for the current keeper, but it's not going to have all this stuff sticking out on it. And then again, it might be the exact same height to the pins with all the components on it. But like I said, I'm going to see if I can't lower it in its final position a little bit, and then kind of take it from there. And so right now I'm just preparing for lights. Oh, I already did slide that out. This is it's just like a little sticky tape thing with plastic. And the rear does the same thing. It goes up into this little black thing, a little hard to see. It's black around the outside. Well, it's showing light through it good for my kitchen light. And it looks like two. I don't know why, but there's only one. And on this side is where they've got the LED. So I'm just going to follow suit. I'm just going to pull that board off, put one of my resistors, or not resistors, the 402 LEDs. They're a true white. It's what I've been using on all my other stuff. And I'll put it right back in the exact same spot. I'm not looking to reinvent the wheel here. I'm just looking for lights that are somewhat respectable. And it's unfortunate that most of these come with lights that are just far too dim for my liking. You can hardly tell that they're on. So anyway, so I'll swap that out. And like I said before, these two little panels in the back, they just lift right out, and I'll just construct my own. And it's kind of re-engineering exactly what they did, but with brighter LEDs. And then once I get the decoder in the mail and speakers, then I'll be able to take the next steps I need to. Like I said, this looks like it's designed, I don't have the screw off it, but it pops right off, and it's got two little pockets on the bottom side. And it also looks like it's universal, so it can handle an oval speaker. I've never been a big fan of an oval speaker, though. I tested a lot of different speakers, and I never could get a good sounding oval speaker with good sound or any kind of decent volume. So I always stuck with the 1-inch. And in this case, I can tell you already, I would have just obliterated the cab and made a little custom baffle and put a 1-inch in there, because I would never install anything lower than a 1-inch. I just didn't get the sound I liked. So I got 3 of the cubes that'll come, and I'll probably end up milling most of the bottom of this off. That weight, it looks like it's solid. It is not. I'm going to pause it and then come back just for a quick glance so you guys can see what you're working with here. I haven't seen a lot on YouTube, and that's why I want to document this also. So if you guys are thinking of doing one of these with whatever speakers and equipment, you'll know what you're going to come across. So this is what the bottom looks like. There's really only one screw that holds it in place, and then those 2 pegs go into the bottom frame. And when I put it back together, I'll probably put just a tiny dab of CA or something, because the only other thing that would hold it was the thing. It's really bad at focusing. Those 2 screws is what held the old board on, and that's really all that held it together. It's not very good, but anyway, it is what it is. So the 1 screw in the back, and then you can see those 4 screws there look to me like you could put your oval speaker in there. And then they also designed it so you could put 2 cubes in there. And I think it's just shy of being able to accept the Soundtraxx Tsunami. And I will check that and post that before I finish. But I'm thinking about pushing the limits here, and it'll probably have to mill right off the end here, but I want to put 3 in series. That's what all the other locomotives, except for my Steam, I've got 4 cubes in it, but that's because I had all kinds of space. But I really don't want to stick with just the 2. It sounds good, no doubt, but I think I've been happy with 3 in series. They have to be wired in series. So anyway, that's what it looks like, and when it's on the back, it's like that. You got your little wire traces and all. There is hardly any weight to this, so when I mill that down, I'm not worried about losing much weight at all. This thing is really light. If it was more solid, I think I'd be a little concerned about its pulling capability, but it's mainly a switcher. I'm just going to use it in this, my little yard here, and so it'll be fine. I'm going to lose any sleep off of milling a little bit off there, so I can get 3 speakers on there. All right, so I went ahead and just hooked up the rear ones because the rear lights, because I just wanted to show on camera here how bright they are. And I mean, some might be satisfied with that. I think it's a joke, especially if you dim the lights and try to run locomotives. I mean, I want it to look more realistic, where it lights up the track some. If you've seen my other videos, I say the same thing. So I just wanted to show it before, because I'm about to rip these out, and I'll replace them just like the ones in the front. I described I was going to put my LED. Now this only has one LED. I don't know if I'll put 2 side by side. I'll just play around, but anything's better than this. I mean, you can barely tell it's on. And when I look at the camera, I'm not exaggerating when I say it looks brighter on the camera than it does in person. It's just, to me, it's a joke. But anyway, that's one of the first things I do is replace those, get them out of there. Alright, so I've gone one a little further on this here. Went ahead and redid the front and rear lights. And the way I said I was gonna, just swap it out the same way it was. And then each end had one of these, it's for the ditch lights. You can see in the upper corner, right there is the LED. You could probably, I know I took a video of that, and well, let's see. I know I did the, I took a video of it at some point. I think just the headlight, but not the ditch lights, because it has to be moving. That's right. So anyway, I did the, like I said, I took 2 pieces of styrene, cut them the same size. It might be a little hard to see because they're almost the same color, but I did a lot of careful measuring, and actually the LED was not on center with the lens, so that could have been part of why it wasn't as bright. But I had the shell off and tested it, and it wasn't as bright either. I had the wires coming out the bottom just so I could go ahead and just test the brightness. So I'll throw the shell on there real quick, and you'll see how the ditch lights look. Okay, here's the front hooked up. And just like all my locomotives, I know it gives off a blue hue when I'm recording it, but they are actually a true white. Every time on this camera, it just favors a bluish hue, and it doesn't have that. Anyway, you should be able to see a major difference. I can't remember what I recorded. I think it was just the headlight. Yeah, I didn't want to. It's having trouble focusing because there we go. Anyway, that's the way I like them. I want them to look real. And when they come from the factory, they just disappoint me. So that's what I do on all of them first thing. Once I get the decoder in and programmed and set up for the ditch lights, and I'll set up all the operations, and then I'll probably circle back around and do the step lights. But so far that's what I got, and that's why, like I said, I ran the wires underneath so I could get the shell on and make sure my LEDs were lined up properly, and they are. Both ends are just as bright, so it's going good so far. Alright, well, I just got done milling the back like I said I was going to do. The decoder came in, and that height looks like it's going to be good, so I'll just put a thin piece of styrene over there just to make sure it doesn't short out. And I've got good clearance between the decoder and the motor, so I didn't mess with that. But this is what I did do. I milled it right up to the wire slots because I needed that depth. So, and like I said, it originally looked like it was set up for 2 speakers, but I didn't want to go with 2. I wanted to go with 4. So, let's see if I can stick this on here without these wires getting. Okay, I think I got it. You should be able to see just how close that is. Yeah, it's pretty close. It's not pressed all the way in there. I know it's got a little bit more. There we go. That's how much gap I've got. The tape isn't quite holding it where I wanted to. And then I ran into this. There's really no way around this. That front weight really doesn't have a lot of weight to it either. So the only place I could put the current keeper was in that area. And I know this little area in the front here is actually going to end up intruding into the cab. So once it's all custom fit and all, I'll just have to paint that section black or something. I don't think it'll be too intrusive, but there was just nowhere else I could put it, and I really don't like running these things when they only have 4 wheels of truck, and I've had them where they hit. I have insula frog switches, and when they hit that, they'll stop, and I don't know, it just kills it for me. So every time I try to do, anytime I do a decoder install now, I make sure I put one of these in. There may be smaller ones, but I feel good and confident with Soundtraxx equipment, so I'm going to stick with it. So I had to I milled that slot in there for that to slide down in, and then there's just enough room for the decoder to fit between, like I said, with some insulation on both underneath and on the ends, so none of the contacts can hit anything. Now this is kind of riding up a little bit, but you see I feel comfortable with that kind of distance between there. I'll probably stick a little piece of electrical tape on top of the motor just because don't want to take any chances. So I'm going to go ahead and custom fit the I'll have to cut some of the floor out down the center. I want to keep the stand. That's going to be fun. I'll probably just have to do some dremeling and see where that ends up. Alright, well, everything's wired and buttoned up. Actually, I had it together, but I want to get a shot of what it looked like finished wired. I have little tracks and grooves for the wires to go along, and I'll put just a tiny bit of glue just here and there to make sure all that stays down and in place. I really didn't want the wires to be long where they'd have to fold back and forth on each other too much. The current keeper, you can see that's kind of looped around there. So I don't think I got a shot of that before. Just the very end nose of the current keeper ends up in the very back portion of the cab. And it's, I mean, you can't see it. It's in there good. The other thing I wanted to do is, I didn't really pay attention much. They got 3 fans there and the grating on top. And I need to put a tiny little piece of electrical tape over the power LED. There's a blue LED on here. There might be a red one as well. I've seen a red one come on when you turn on one of the functions. I think it's one of the higher functions. I'm not sure why it does that. But anyway, a lot of that light leaks through the top, especially, like I said, so far the blue. And if I need to troubleshoot it, I can just pull the shell back off, and I'm just going to put a very small little piece of tape on there. I was going to cover up the vents, but I figured it'd be easier just to cover up that light. Yeah, I did end up just using electrical tape across the bottom and up, and I kind of started down here and did a zigzag. You can see all the wires are, I mean, they're really tight because there's not a whole lot of room in this thing. So the only thing I had to be careful of is the headlight and the rear light, making sure there's enough room for those resistors to find a happy home when the top shell's put on. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll fire it up and have a listen. Alright, so I went ahead and put little pieces of electrical tape over the 2 lights, so there's no bleed through on those anymore. You can't see a light going through the top. So let's see here. I'll turn on the headlight. There we go. And it's a lot brighter than it was before. Okay, and so I've mapped all the ditch light functions to 24. So there's 24. And actually used 4 function outputs on the decoder. 2 for the front and 2 for the rear. So when the front headlights come on, and the condition for the ditch lights to come on in the front is it has to be on in the forward direction. So that's actually the electronic bell. I don't believe these had, I was having trouble finding some info on some of these. So if I change direction, there we go. It'll automatically cut out the front ditch lights and headlight, of course, and then turn on the back. Now I'm pretty sure that's the air conditioner kicking on. I made sure to turn it off on some of my other units, but this has got the two little AC units on top. Also, I'll say, just like I do in all my other videos, the LEDs look bluish on video, but in person they are white. They are true white, like a 5600 K color temperature, which falls right in the true white area. So those are, like I said, much brighter. So let me go through. I'm going to notch it up. We'll start it, and there's, with the manual here, it shows what different steps do what, and I'll just kind of call that out as it goes through. There's the warning. So first you had the warning signal. I think it's a low oil pressure. Now that's the first engine, because it's got the 3 different Cummins diesel engines in it. So that's the first one. And I'm on notch 1 at 1200 RPM. Now we've stepped up to notch 2. Notch 3. And in a second here you should hear the next engine turn on. Okay, so the second engine is turned on. We're at notch 4. Notch 5. And then you should be able to just barely hear the third one's about to kick on. So we're at notch 6, 7, and 8. Alright. So go ahead and start stepping down. It's 7. 6. 5. And the third engine should shut off once you step down to 5 within 15 seconds. Okay, I believe I'm at notch 4. Let's see if that other engine, I didn't hear it shut down yet. Alright, I believe it's notch 3. Kind of lost count here. And pretty soon, you can hear it getting quieter. I didn't hear the third engine. Okay, there it goes. That's the second engine actually shutting down, so Now it's only one engine running. Okay, so I was in notch 1. And it takes 30 seconds for the second engine to shut off, and now it's fully shut down. So this one was it was fun. It was pretty tight in there and all, but I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. Like I said, the lights are a lot brighter. It just took a little extra time custom making the parts for the LEDs to sit on all. And like I said before, I'd like to come back at some point and I'll do the step lights. And I had mentioned, I guess if you're looking straight through the window, you can see the very end of the current keeper. But I'd originally taken out the control stack there, and because it was a little bit in the way, and I just shaved it a little bit and then put it all back together. So I mean, the current keeper sticks into the cab a little bit, but you really got to kind of be looking for it, so it blends in nicely. So overall, I'm really happy with the way this turned out, and it sounds great. I think I might play around with the different engine volumes, because from the factory they are set at different volumes. I don't have that info in front of me, but it starts out at a lower volume and stays there for the first engine. Then when the second one comes on, is to make it more noticeable. But maybe you heard it and I didn't. When it was shutting down, I didn't quite hear the third one shut down. So I may bump the first two engines down a little bit in volume even more, so it's even more obvious. I'll do a quick dynamic exhaust example here. Hold on. So I'll go ahead and start it, and then what I'm going to do after it starts up and I get it rolling is I'll put my finger in front of it, and you should be able to hear you'll hear the engines get louder, and at least the second engine will turn on. So if you're pulling a load or going uphill or anything, it'll do all that automatically for you, and that's a really cool feature. So you notice how the second engine turned on and it got louder. And it doesn't take much to calibrate. I've been doing it on all the engines, and I'm really impressed with the way that works. That's really cool. So anyway, that's my Genset II install, and I hope you enjoyed it.